Hello, good morning and welcome back to Ulti.tv's coverage of the World Great Grandmasters Beach Ultimate Club Championships here in Villa Simius. I'm Ali Thomas, joined by the delightful Benji Rees on the commentary tables. We have a pool game. Gaul, hailing from Germany, are facing off against Man Down from all over the USA. How are you feeling about this game, Benji?
I'm looking forward to it. They've had differing starts in this tournament, I think it's fair to say. Man Down went 1-on-1 yesterday. They beat Flash 12-6 in their first game before going down to America 11-4 in their afternoon contest. Gaul did not necessarily have a great day. They lost 13-12 to Team Finland, and then the only kind of team in common they both played is Flash. Mentioned that Man Down won that game 12-6 and Gaul went down 11-3. We streamed that game yesterday afternoon and Flash had very good value for the lead. So certainly on paper, it feels like Man Down probably strong favourites for this one, but of course you don't play the game on paper, and with a wind that is really whipping up now right into our face, you know, that can be a big leveller.
I'm just trying to imagine what a game being played on paper would look like. What kind of surface? How many layers of paper do you think you'd need?
Interesting. I'm imagining it like a little flick book. Just draw it like...
Yes, so the wind has changed direction. If you watched the earlier game, you'll be aware. But yesterday it was blowing away from the camera towards the mountains, and today it has reversed its direction. So a lot of those throws that teams were getting a bit more comfortable with are not going the way that they are hoping today.
It's certainly something that the teams are going to have to adapt to. And if one of these teams can adapt quicker than the other, you know, you can build a lead and then you can just kind of trade it out from there. It's exactly what Borderline did in our first game of the day. Kind of knock Tragic Hips for 6, both kind of metaphorically and actually on the scoreboard. And then they just were able to hold that lead.
Yeah, what we've seen in that actually sort of almost broke the mould of games we've seen previously, where the first 4 or 5 points are quite close and then one team pulls away. In that Borderline was pretty dominant from the start. Although, having said that, Tragic Hips were certainly not, you know, easing off at any point.
No, they didn't go down without a fight. And you could see at the end that they clearly had nothing left in the tank. There we go. There's the signal that time has got underway.
And every member of the Man Down team is wearing some kind of snazzy headgear, which I am definitely a fan of.
Trying to work out what that big hooter noise in the background is, because I don't think that's from the TD desk. Feels like it's coming from further away, although kind of I'm not necessarily good with concepts of distance, which is part of the reason why I'm not great at Ultimate.
I mean, we are also wearing headphones, which might make it a bit harder to gauge. And the first pull goes up. It's a big one, and it arcs, landing pretty centrally in the end zone. So we have Gaul and an unfortunate bobbling of the disc there. You could see the wind just kind of pushed it away from the receiving hand. So Man Down have a chance to take a break to start the game.
Yeah, Kuka clearly had a position where he expected this to be, and you could really see it vary in the air.
And we can tell you about the wind all we like, but there's no better way of finding out about it than just seeing it on stream. And as you can clearly see, it is doing things to the disc that the players do not want it to do.
What's that great directorial trick? Show, don't tell.
There we go. So, shot very close to the end zone, and defender just on the wrong side. Perhaps a bit of miscommunication rather with the mark, and that is a hold for Gaul.
Nice, good start for them, because we mentioned how in that game against Flash they kind of were up against it a little bit early and they couldn't peg their way back into the game. So building up a lead, even if it's just 1 point, a couple of points, you know, it's a big confidence booster. You feel a bit less apprehensive about the rest of the game.
Oh, certainly.
And they pick themselves up from that, you know, that unfortunate throwaway early on. We're just seeing it again here. Yeah, both players caught on the same side, and it's a comfortable throw in the end from Dumley.
Fun fact, the man who caught that goal, Kuka, is the oldest player on that team, 64 years young.
Amazing. Like, the fact that you just still have the same passion and the fire to you know, doesn't matter that you are not as young as once you were. If you still love doing it, you know, why not? And that's why tournaments like this are great, because you know the players are just here because they just love the sport and they love playing it with their friends.
Very bladey flick pull going up to man down. So we've got, looks like a kind of two-hander set, although there's a lot of switching with the cutters upfield. Stewart on disc, fakes the low IO. Back round to Pletcher. Oh, and a fantastic bid from Stewart there. Really kind of full extension, both hands outstretched, but unfortunately couldn't quite snag the disc.
Yeah, too far out in front, but up until that point, the man-down offense looked very smooth, very slick. When their opportunities were there to work it between the handlers, they were more than happy to take them and then bide their time for those continuation cutters to free themselves up downfield. Just lacked the precision on the scoring pass.
So Gaul on the opposite end zone line. Looking deep. And unfortunately, I think the cutter had already turned to come under. So Pletcher on disc. Nice inside shot to Goldsmith. Swings to Schaff. And a nice floaty score to Lebonge there, who high-fives his teammate. Again, it looks like either there's miscommunication with the defense or he's just able to kind of get that separation, get behind his player's back to get open. I
think the key here was there was an up line cut that came on this near sideline. The force spotted it and came over quite a way to prevent the handler getting the disc in the power position. And actually credit to man down because they spotted that, pivoted out, swinging it across the disc, and then the continuation to the break side for the goal is, you know, it's smart ultimate, which is what you'd expect.
Very much hoping, sorry, I forgot what I was going to say. Very much hoping that we are going to hear some more shouts of man down every time one of the man down players does a layout.
Yeah, but they said that, you know, at this age, you know, especially on sand, getting down's the easy bit. It's the getting back up again that often causes the problems.
Yeah, once you're down there, you just kind of like, oh, why don't we just chill here for a bit, just have a little nap,
catch some rays,
catch some Z's and some rays.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, everyone, there's plenty of time after this game for that.
So that pull looks like it's not going to come back in, landing just outside the orange tape. So no brick has been signalled.
I think they're just maybe working with whether they do want to brick it, and I think that is where they are striding.
Is a brick. So a deep cut goes immediately. It's coming back under. Oh, and just looked like it slipped out of the hand there. Maybe a bit of sand on it. So very close to the end zone, man down, knocking on the door. Oh, fakes the push pass. Little backhand. And in all the confusion, finds the score. I think that was Tolchin.
And it's a break for 2-1 as well.
Yes, absolutely.
The problem they had there was that it was all very congested by the handler, and you know, when you've got a lot of players there, A, you're getting in each other's way, and B, you're attracting a lot of defenders into that space. Compare that to the offensive man down, where they have that, you know, a bit more separation and a bit more space, and everything's looking just a little bit easier for them.
I mean, it's so sometimes the same team can have, you know, very beautiful end zone offense, and then other times everyone just sort of panics a bit and rushes around.
Yeah, so there are sometimes there, especially when you get near the end zone, it has a tendency to become a little bit headless chicken sometimes. But you'd feel that these players are probably experienced enough to know better.
There's a little bit of discussion about who exactly is going to be on this man down D line. We've got Stewart holding the disc to pull.
Yeah, that pink Euro disc that is the disc that we're seeing in play. You may notice those Euro disc flags in the background as well, rippling in the wind.
So it's a low pull, headed towards the ankles of the Gaul team. Stechbart swings round. Oh, and a nice upfield look to Wiedemann. Back to Stechbart. Lots of nice handler movement, swinging it around this mark, but unfortunately the wind is going to try and take that long shot and push it out of bounds.
Yeah, showed way too much of that to the wind, and you could see it was never really in danger for man down of being caught. So they're now getting an opportunity to get another break with Pletcher bringing the disc in.
Very loud up call there. So we've got Schaff on disc. Back to Stewart. And that is Ivashko on disc, one of the only women on this team. This being open, of course, women can also participate. Schwartz swings back to Stewart. Surveying his options, lovely inside break to Ivashko. And a beautiful break to Schaff for the score. And some really nice fluid offense from man down there.
Again, it's that break side continuation. Before they've had a lot of success with the around break. This time it's the inside flick, but it's right on point, and Ivashko looks tough. And the timing of the cuts in the end zone is good because they're not coming too early, which means you're looking downfield, the cut's already happened, the defender's already there, and that means you have to wait for them to get out of the space and maybe get another opportunity. They're timing the cuts late enough so they can put the throws out onto space and lead the receiver a little bit.
And I think the defense is just not really expecting those kind of throws to go, almost.
Yeah, after a slightly shaky first point, man down looked like they've warmed up into it a little bit here. And that might be a foreboding sign for Gaul.
Absolutely. To all those watching on YouTube, just a quick reminder, do like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, hit the like button, do all of the things.
All of the things that people tell me that you should do, but you are your own person and we can't force you, but we do appreciate it when you do.
Excellent point. So we've got quite nice spacing from Gaul here. Cutters maintaining separation from the handlers. Oh, there we go. Kuka manages to snag a disc potentially intended for someone else.
Visionary.
And Damley forcing Disla to make a diving catch. Oh, and that's going to bounce off the hands. But Wang seemingly owning up to a foul. Excellent spirit on display there. So uncontested foul on Fritz.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to miss a Wang, are you, with that bright orange bucket hat?
No, definitely
not. It is
not.
a look, I think is what they call it.
Oh, so Disla in a bit of trouble. Oh, finds Damley. And Damley, another nice inside shot to Kuka. And that is 3-2, two-man down.
That was the connection they had for the first goal, and they do it again for the second, just running it back. We saw that inside flick, if you've got the execution with it, can be a very dangerous throw, just scything its way through the wind. Comes into play again once more. The defence was close, the forces were tight. Maybe you could say sometimes the defence was a little bit too close.
Yeah, a little bit of touchy-feely going on there.
But
it's getting a little close.
The throw goes out nice and early, and it's sitting there for the receiver to run onto. And obviously, the defender's sitting on the open side, because if you sit on the break side, well, then you leave the open side free, and that's obviously the more dangerous option. And it's the question of, you really got to trust the force to try and stop that throw. But you know, these players have that full arsenal of throws available, and it's difficult to take everything away.
Yeah, you've got to try and minimise rather than rule out, I think, in terms of risk.
Yeah, and so if they do get those throws out, then we're going to put pressure on them so they are floaty or fluttery or wobbly, and it's not going to be the easy completion that the offense would like.
And that was a fantastically uncatchable pull from Gaul there, incredibly, basically a flick blade. So man down, working it upfield, lots of short passes, and a pick is called on the play, so a disc will go back.
Can I say the phrase?
You can say the phrase.
Suspiciously open. It's usually the sign of the pick.
There we've got Schaff. Back to Smith. Lots of nice short passes, keeping the stall count low. Steps out wide. Oh, very nice milking for the score. I don't think any pass was more than about 4 or 5 metres there.
No, and the nice presence of mind there in the field awareness to say, actually, there isn't a defender that's really close, so I can just tease this one out a little bit there, and eventually they pop into the end zone for the score to restore the 2-point advantage for man down and 4-2. I think that's right. I trust the scoreboard.
Yeah, the scoreboard on the other side of the field you may be able to see is a rather unique one.
Yeah, kind of a vertical standing scoreboard, and they've got like arrows on either side that kind of move up the pole. It's interesting little idea actually. There's Stewart kind of milking that one a little bit. Just like decides that okay, that's long enough. I don't want to risk it any further. Draw the defender over towards the far side, and then it's the simple pop into the end zone for the goal.
Very classic, very textbook.
Yeah, they've utilised the break side really well actually, man down. And obviously, you know, as a defence, you know, you're aware that you're trying to stop the break side throws, even if it's not quite working. So you've got to try and work out, okay, maybe if they are going to use the break side, how are they going to use it? Are we going to stop them? You know, are we going to make them throw the around more than the inside in that direction, for example, so that they're kind of throwing it right into the teeth of the wind? Are we going to maybe, rather than go one-on-one downfield, are we going to surround so we've got a player sitting on that break side?
Certainly, and that was a lovely pull from Miglioretto, who almost gets the D there on Miglioretto, who will swing it. That's a very lovely upwind swing. Gaul looking really solid this point. Very pinpoint throws, looks like they're really sitting into the wind, getting lots of spin on the disc. Oh, but that's an unfortunate miscommunication. Fritz was already up the line when the throw went, and man down, storming up the pitch.
I mean, it was just straight into the palms of Tulchin. I don't think he could believe his luck.
Yes. So about brick mark level now. They've got one in the end zone, everyone else filtering through. Goldsmith on disc, swings to lacrosse. Just a foot away from the end zone now, still moving the disc very quickly, and that's a cheeky little pop from Tulchin over the shoulder of his mark, and man down will extend their lead.
Drew Shapiro with the goal in the end. That's got. Oh no, I was nearly made a really bad unintentional pun. I was going to say this got to be galling for, and then I was. Oh no, I realised. Yeah, it's got to be gutting because their offense looks so smooth for 90% of the field, and just when they go into the red zone, it's not even like they tried a risky pass. The swing should have been the. You know, you feel like it's a good fundamental option, but just the handler had already cleared out. There's a miscommunication, and that offense on the turn was so silky smooth from man down, and that's what good teams do. Is, you know, you give them an outside opportunity, and they take it.
They don't waste a second, just immediately, you know, starting to move the disc. But since Gaul, they are from all over Germany. They don't really play together very much as a team. These kind of miscommunications are, to a certain extent, unavoidable. Whereas man down, we've been told, have been playing Grandmasters, great Grandmasters tournaments in the US already. So they've got those slightly stronger connections to be able to rule out those kinds of miscommunications on O and on D. There's
a bigger master scene kind of for Masters, great Grandmasters and great Grandmasters in the US. Like, there are more tournaments to go to because it's a larger player base, and therefore you have the ability to host more tournaments, whereas in Europe you don't necessarily have that.
That disc has gone very, very far, and the puller receiving a little bit of heckling from his teammates.
Which I cannot stress this enough. He absolutely should.
Oh yes.
Was bad. Was very bad. And this is one of the other things about covering Pro Grandmasters is that you know the heckle game is going to be top notch.
We've got Fletcher walking up to the brick mark.
Eventually.
Quite a long walk, absolutely.
He's going to be knackered by the time he gets there. Maybe this was the strategy all along.
Cunning.
Probably not.
So Gaul setting up in a 3-handler, 2-cutter, horizontalish look. Very classic diamond cutting pattern, but instead dumps off to Plunce, who puts up a nice floaty shot, but it's going to be contested. Oh, and will be a foul call.
So they're discussing A, whether there was a foul, and B, whether or not the player was in bounds anyway.
If there was a foul, there could potentially be an argument for a force-out foul.
Yeah, it looked a bit strippy to me, like he had control and then Wang knocked it out. And I think they're deciding that might have been what happened, but it was maybe out of bounds when he had made the catch, and then before the contact occurred, so the turnover will stand. I think that's my reading of it.
Yeah, I would agree. So we've got Smith picking up, vertical stack look, Wang immediately going deep, but that's a really nice shot across the field. Oh, had me going for a second there. I thought that was gone.
Convincing fake.
Bendix unfortunately can't connect with Wang. They've got Frotso picking up again. And a nice shot to Podolski. Not sure where his defender was. Dumps back. Nice swing across to, I believe that's Wiedemann.
It looks like Colin Smith, the number 42 for man down, especially is poaching off on the handlers, just trying to clog those lanes downfield and force them to make the lateral passes.
Good on Gaul for just, Gaul for just taking those open passes, keeping the disc moving. Big force from Wang here. Oh, and a shot to the end zone. It's going to be too far for Wiedemann.
Yeah, there was a second when I thought maybe it would hang and they'd get underneath it, and in the end, the wind just continued to push it and push it and push it out of the sideline.
Yeah, I feel like the wind isn't always acting in the way that it should. I'm sure Wiedemann is thinking the same thing, but you would have thought that would come down a lot sooner. So man down in their vertical stack, running their sideline play. Nice swing to Smith.
I like that there was a clear intent to isolate the reset, really square the hips and get the distance to the sideline.
So Wang trapped on that downwind sideline, very hard to get out of it. Manages a nice break off to Smith. Oh, and a lovely shot. Oh, but tipped away by Plants, able to just bop it over the head of the man down player, Joe Bendix.
I thought for a minute after he touched it that, oh no, this is going to be one of those scenarios where I have to shout at someone to catch their Ds. But evidently he did get enough on the disc to divert the flight path, especially when the wind is like this as well. If you can really take the sting and take the spin off the disc as well, then all of a sudden it doesn't have those revolutions to hold the shape, and you've no idea where it could end up. And that time, did enough to get it out of the path.
Especially when that defender is quite close behind you, your reaction time has to be so fast to be able to see that the D is coming and then predict where the disc is going to go. And it looked like it was, especially with the wind, it can go so far even if you just tap it lightly.
And Gaul choosing to take a time out here, this point grinding on a little bit here, so they think let's get some water and electrolytes and fluids on, and kind of work out how we can fight our way back into this game.
It's always a bold call to take a timeout on your opponent's end zone line, because if you do have the unfortunate time over, turnout, however you want to call it, your opponent has very few passes to make, in theory, to get into that end zone. And
especially because you're bringing the disc in this, in a similar scenario where you would have been before. It's because you could have set up to walk the disc to the front of the line anyway, and in a way it's better to do that because you can get players moving before the disc is brought into play, which you can't do off a timeout. But obviously I think this is probably for fatigue reasons.
Yes, definitely. And in terms of, as you were saying, you can't start moving until the disc is tapped in a timeout, whereas ideally you want to be setting up your cut at around -3, -2, and especially on beach when you're moving so much slower, setting up that cut early is so much more crucial. So it's we'll see how it goes. We're being very pessimistic. Oh, I'm being very pessimistic about this. I'm sure it'll be fine.
It might work out. It might all work out. Certainly, that's what Gaul will hope. But you were talking to Gaul a little bit today and yesterday about the origin of the team name.
Yes, so it's a pun and an acronym.
Good.
So the acronym, let me just look at my notes here, is the German All-Time Ultimate Lovers, which is a very sweet name. But Gaul in German is also the name for an old horse. So that's why they have horse heads on their kit. So kind of like an old, a nag, I suppose, would be the English version of it.
Yeah,
so they like the name. They seem to enjoy it. So all those who say that Germans don't have a sense of humour, disapprove.
I think it's just a different sense of humour.
Well, they had a whole Monty Python special in German.
Yeah.
Some exclusive sketches. Anyway, Frötsche has the disc. Looks like Gaul is setting up in a vertical stack, man down, poaching very heavily off the dump. And they've got the first pass off, so it's not a time over, but the second pass is. I don't know whether we count that as one.
I'd count that. Again, we mentioned that Smith was sagging off the handlers to clutter that space downfield, and he did it again there.
Well, it's bounced off the hands of Bendix, so... Oh, and gosh, the wind is just making this disc so hard to catch. I think it's really zinging in and out of these players' hands. So we've got man down with another chance. And Bendix, unfortunately, again, cannot keep his hands on the disc, or the disc in his hands.
I don't know what he's got on those gloves, but it doesn't seem to be working.
No, maybe some of that olive oil from yesterday has
Well, exactly.
sneaked on. Or sun cream, potentially. Although why you would be putting on sun cream with gloved hands is a mystery.
Actually, that maybe is why he's wearing gloved hands, because you do get, you know, it does, especially in these games, you have to wear sunscreen. And, yeah, it does get your hands all kind of horrible and clammy. And, yeah, gloves actually not a bad idea in that scenario.
Man down seeming to have set up a zone. Oh, gosh, that's a physical bit. Setting up a zone, but, oh... And it's these passes, it should be easy, you know, there's no defender on the player, they're quite close to you, so you think, oh, I'm just going to throw this disc, and the wind has other ideas.
Yeah, maybe they're rushing a little bit, maybe guilty of looking at the next pass before it's properly secured, watched all the way into the clutches.
So man down, oh, fakes the IO, breaks round instead. Dumps back to Seal. Barney, sends it slightly too far out in front of Wang.
Yeah, looking.
Oh, it's not Wang, he's just also wearing, is it Wang?
It is Wang.
It is Wang.
Leah looking for the birthday boy.
Yes, Wang is 51 years young today. So very happy birthday to Cao Wang, who is one of the captains of this American team.
I'll tell you what, I can think of worse places to spend a birthday.
Oh, yeah. Although it is, of course, sad to not be able to celebrate with family and loved ones. The team's a second family, really, isn't it?
Certainly you hope so.
So Frötschel picking up once more. Man down. I think switching back to match. And Gaul trying to just stick with these really short passes, trying to make the continuations as easy as possible. Man down are still utilising their zone, forcing lots of small passes. On the far sideline now, in theory the easier sideline to throw from. And Frötschel can't quite keep a hold on that one.
Full credit to Wang there, because he nipped in behind, just caught the receiver on his heels slightly. That's, I think, is the hooter for the half-time, so we will finish this point, add one to that for a half-time score cap. God, that's loud, isn't it now?
It is very loud. This is an electronic blaring noise to signal. Oh, and that is a lovely leading pass to Wang, and it looks like it's going to be called in, so the birthday boy gets a score, which means that we will have half at 7 no matter what.
Happy birthday, Cao Wang. That's a good little confidence booster for a birthday present, we'll call it.
Yeah.
Just sees the cut, sits the throw nicely out into space for Wang to run onto. Doesn't even need to break stride, and it's now 6-2 to the Americans.
I wonder if there's a version of, you know, there's the honey pass, which is, you know, looking up other people to throw to your partner. If there's a birthday version of that, where you just want your birthday boy or girl to, or person to...
What, like the cake pass?
The cake pass! Well done. There we go.
Yeah, well, all right, I'll take that. I'm happy with that. So what's interesting is that we're seeing Gaul, they're trying to really piecemeal their way and inch their way down the field. Maybe, I think, with the wind, they're reticent, they don't necessarily have the confidence in putting it deep, and it's forcing everything to be very congested. Every now and again, I wouldn't mind seeing them open up the arms, even if it doesn't come off. A, because you get yourself field position, and B, it lets the defence know that, okay, we can't just cheat underneath, they are going to throw it.
I mean, certainly when a lot of your, you know, short underpasses are bouncing off the hands or coming out wobbly, it might, as you say, dent the confidence a bit and think, oh, I'm not sure if I have this huck in these conditions.
And don't get me wrong, these are testing conditions.
They certainly are.
You know, it's a lot easier to say, you know, tell people how to do it sitting here in the booth than it is out there on the field.
So we'll have the Gaul O-line. And there we go, we were talking about sending it. Oh, but it's just too far out in front for Kuka.
Yeah, Le Bon's maybe had a little bit more pace there, so he got himself into position such that, you know, there wasn't a play that Kuka could make.
I would have liked to see him lay out, though.
I mean, always.
He has had some spectacular ones this tournament. So we've got Pletcher walking it up to the end zone line, and the deep cut goes, but he's dumped it back.
Sensible, if boring.
Yes. So just a bit of handler movement, gets it upfield to Lebonge. Nice shot through the middle to Reardon. And again, they're doing this very quick kind of give and go, up the line, bouncing back. It's working very well for them. But a call.
A pick, I think, as he's coming across to the open side. The players are clearing through and just the defender has to hold up for a second.
Sounds good. And another nice up the line cut, gaining a few yards. And a lovely shot that's Lebonge getting free in the end zone and able to receive a nice roll curve for another score.
And that will take us into half.
That will.
7-2, man down, looking very comfortable so far, I'd have to say. For Gaul, it's a little bit, they're getting in their own way, I feel.
Yes, and I think the level of concentration that you have to normally you think, okay, I need to really focus when I'm going to throw a huck, for example. Whereas in these conditions, you have to focus every single throw, and that is mentally exhausting, at least I find anyway.
But it's so much cooler if you look nonchalant about it.
Yeah, less so when the disc ends up rolling around in sand.
You know what? I take your feedback on board. And things are going to go from bad to worse because it's the opportunity for the old 2 for none now for man down because they scored to take us into half and they're receiving to start the second period so they can get 2 possessions, 2 goals without Gaul getting a chance with the disc.
That's true. But at least we'll get to see another awesome rolly flick pull from Frötschel. This is an indoor pull, basically.
I mean, it's, as you mentioned, they're so difficult to catch. So you're forcing players to try and field them on the hop often, especially in these winds. It can blow around, the sand can cause a mischief as well. And often it is difficult to stop that roll.
Oh, is that going to come back in? Yes, it is. And just as you exactly said, you can't catch it and it's rolled back. So Frötschel taking a little bit of time to get to the mark. We've got Tolchin on the disc. To lacrosse, taps it in, doesn't need to do that, we're not in the USA.
Yes.
Oh, and a very free cut. And, but it's going to be just too far out in front of Colin Smith.
I think Colin Smith looked a bit disappointed because I think he thought it was going to go further than it did in the end.
Yeah.
And actually, if he'd kept his foot on the pedal, he might have been able to get there in time, but as it is, gave up perhaps a little bit too soon.
Yeah, just squatting down on his haunches, considering his life decisions there.
I mean, to be fair, you're playing beach ultimate in Sardinia. I think you've made some good decisions along the way somewhere.
Yeah. So man down, sticking with their poach in the lane. Frötschel puts up a nice IO huck, but it's not going to go as far as I think he intended. So man down will have the disc on the far sideline.
You can see what he's trying to do there, but just didn't get enough spin to hold that shape.
Yeah, so we've got Tolchin on the sideline. Keeping it on the sideline to Smith, who puts up a nice shot, and it's caught by Matt Schaff.
That's wonderful, that. Just threading the needle, finding that little window and sweeping that flick through the channel for the goal.
Very nicely in the bread basket, Schaff only having to crouch over slightly to get it, receive it very safely in the chest.
And that'll be pleasing for Smith after he might have felt that he left something out there on the deep reception. So still gets himself on the stat sheet, but with an assist rather than a goal. Let me put my teeth back in.
Schaff jogging past us now. Well, us, I mean the commentators, not you, the viewers. He's one of the other captains for this team and was instrumental in recruiting a lot of the Californian players.
Getting a beautiful shot here of the Sardinian mountains in the background. I must admit that I knew very little about the geography of Sardinia before arriving here, and it is very mountainous. It is.
It's quite a lot of desert or desert-esque kind of scrubland, but also some really gorgeous peaks.
I mean, it is I have not really. I've commentated, fortunately, in a fair few places now. This is certainly one of the more spectacular, I think.
It is. It's not a view to be sniffed at. So Gaul, reeling in a high disc there.
Just made that look a lot easier than it was, because that was some reception.
They're just working it round the back now. Seems like they're maybe getting used to this man-down zone as they thread it through the middle to Knoblauch. Oh, and it's a grandad backhand that's completed. Back to Knoblauch. Not looking super happy about that, but there we go. Gets it off to Disla, who sends a lovely floaty shot, but unfortunately it's snagged by Lebonge, who gets it going immediately to Owasco, and they're off to the races. Slowing down a bit, back to Owasco.
An injury, I think, for Knoblauch.
Oh no, gosh. Someone give him a hand.
Cramp, maybe, or he's just tweaked a calf. Looks painful. He's getting helped off by his teammates. With the turnover, you can see what he was looking for, that kind of the powered shot across the pitch with that flick. But because it's going into the wind, it just held it up a little bit, and that allowed the defence the time to come in and close. Seeing Knoblauch getting two arms around the just around his teammates to get off the pitch, so I think he'll probably make his way over to the physio area and try and fix that problem.
Oh, incredible defensive attempt, but reeled in. So man down, round about the brick mark. Goes to his knees to complete the pass. We've got some movement at the start of the end zone, and Lebonge able to get free. So tall, and I think probably able to get some quite good acceleration off the front of the stack into space.
I think it's a pick. And
there we go.
Yeah, just it was interesting because we had Owasco going break side from the front of the stack, and then Lebonge going towards the near open side, and I was expecting the defenders perhaps to switch and take those players, and they crossed over each other a little bit, and that's what helped to create the pick.
We've got Joey Stewart on the disc. A lot of players at the front of the end zone here, and not a lot of movement. Lebonge heads to the open side once more, isn't free. Oh, and just slips out of his hands. He's got the same curse as earlier with the gloves.
He looks at his hands a little bit like, why have you betrayed me?
At least he immediately gets on D. I can't stand it when players just have a little moment.
You've got to have that almost goldfish memory. I know that goldfish have better memories than that. That's a bit and a half, really, isn't it?
Gantz sort of yelling with frustration as he hits the sand without the disc in it.
But yeah, you know, after you make a mistake, you've got to be like, that's fine, we'll just get back and try and do my job again.
Now Wasco gets to her knees to receive that disc, looking for a dump, but it's a stall out. It looks like it's going to be uncontested.
Stall out?
Or is it a timeout?
Looks like everyone's coming onto the pitch. So
timeout.
Timeout makes it.
I
was going to say, like, I mean, we've seen before. I've seen some very quick stall outs, but that felt
too quick. Yes, yeah. Definitely would have been some kind of fast count called, or should have been some kind of fast count called.
Give us clearer hand signals.
Yeah, there was a lot of yelling from the sideline of give her a cut, but I think then everyone gave her a cut at once, so it limited eruptions.
It's one of those things that you see, it's like a default phrase for a lot of people. It's one of these things like no breaks or cuts, and obviously, you know, you're telling people stuff that they think they kind of already know, and maybe you can be a bit more directed, a bit more constructive with the sideline help. But there is sometimes when it's just you just need to get across like, oi, you know, just do something, please. And as you said, often players see that and it's like, oh, yeah, well, I'll do something, and the other player's like, I'll do this, and everyone has the same idea. And as you mentioned, it gets very cluttered and very clogged, and that's what's caused Owasco to take the time out here.
So I'm not sure what the stall is here, but I can't imagine it'll be much less than 5, which means they're going to have to set up a play where she can immediately get the disc off, possibly some kind of isolation.
Yeah, I mean, I think generally getting a quick reset off a timeout is good, because then it gives your players downfield a chance to get in motion, to get moving before you're kind of looking downfield to get things going, because as we mentioned, obviously you can't move before the disc is checked in, and so it does take a couple of seconds to get that spacing a bit more, to drag defenders around. So actually taking a reset early on after a timeout, I think is just generally a good idea. Yeah,
definitely not going to disagree with you there. So we've got about 10 minutes left of this game. Both teams have now used up their one allocated timeout. So man down will now look to set up.
Of course, it is Owasco with the disc. I imagine they'll keep the same player on the force, because if if you switch the force, then the stall count has to reset. So if there is no stall, for example, sometimes they will switch the force. They'll get you a more comfortable handler mark on there, for example. But you know, if you had a few seconds of the stall count already, then it makes more sense to to keep that matchup as it was, so the stall count doesn't reset.
So you've got Weidemann on the force. Oh, and that's a lovely break. They didn't go for any of the options that we suggested. It almost seems like they know what they're doing.
It's disappointing.
And a pit called. Once again, that quite congested front of the end zone.
Yeah, I'd like to see them utilise the depth of the end zone a little bit more.
So they've got Iwasco back on the disc. Immediately swings to Goldsmith. Back to Iwasco. Another nice swing. And Lebonge, menace in the end zone that he is, reels in another score for man down.
Good goal scorer, isn't he, Lebonge? And the play out of that timeout was interesting because it looked very Japanese to me, in the sense that rather than having a player and a specific reset, you've got that stack set up slightly diagonally, and you're looking for the break to the front of stack coming through, either with the little inside shot or with that around break.
I do love that play because people never expect a cut from the front of the stack.
Because I mean, in a lot of Western Ultimate, it's cuts from the back, and you only activate that reset a bit higher into the stall count. But especially off a timeout where the stall count might be a bit higher, get that in play early.
And then after a few points, you can start catching from the back again and just confuse your defense again.
Yeah, and get the disc on the break side as well, because A, you've got more chance for a break side continuation, and B, if you're moving the disc over towards that far sideline, depending on where you set the stack, you can have the stack pushed quite over to the open side, and that means you've got a big inside-out channel to work with as well.
So nice curling pull. This one's going to stay in, but bounce out, so will be brought to the front of the end zone by Frötschel.
Seems like he's still got a little bit of energy, jogging it to the front of the line.
Yeah, well, not long left now, might as well. We've got a long lunch break after this game. Oh, and immediately opens up for the big huck. He's going to have a lot of contention. It's hanging and batted away by Bendix there.
Yeah, the wind and the people underneath, it causing a little bit of maelstrom of traffic there. But man down come out on top.
And waste no time in putting another score in the hands of Matt Schaff.
Extending their lead till 10-3 now. So there we are, Hooter for 5 minutes left. I don't remember hearing that earlier, so evidently they have upped the Hooter game.
They've taken all the money that they got from the beers yesterday and they've put it into a new Hooter.
I mean, I must admit the fact that the TD desk also doubles as the bar, it's not a bad innovation, I think.
It's a genius idea, absolutely genius.
I mean, especially here, where you've got the big lunch break and the weather's scorching hot and you're on the beach and you could do something in that lunch break. Why not drink in the surroundings and the local beverages?
Local Sardinian beer.
I must say I've enjoyed the few that we have shared.
So we've got a disc to no one. I think Fritz had made a fake to the break side and was going to come back, but man down again. This very quick turn, fast offense, and another quick score. This time to Kevin Reardon, and man down just really running away with it at this point.
Yeah, the middle part of the game, it felt a little bit like it was getting a bit agricultural. The points are a bit grindy. There wasn't that flow. And then kind of as the game's gone on a little bit, it likes man down have found that extra gear that they had at the start of the game, and they're kicking it up a little bit now, and it seems like they're keen to get into their lunch break nice and early here. They've just, they found the form that deserted them in the middle period.
They heard us talking about beer.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a very tempting thing to do in this weather, isn't it? So they're just going to work out who's coming off and who's coming. Oh no, just who's coming off. I miscounted.
Just jogging across the pitch.
Yeah, I can definitely count to 5.
They're standing close together, to be fair.
Yes, that was the thing. I was like, oh, that's clearly one person. No, it is 3 people. I think one of the advantages here for man down, actually, to be fair, Gaul have this as well. So they've both brought 16 players, so they can rotate players through. You're keeping legs fresh. You're trying to get enough people, enough pitch time. Sometimes it can be tricky bringing a bigger roster into a tournament, but especially for beach, having as many fresh legs as possible, generally a good idea.
And another very hard pull to catch, but it has once again rolled out of the back or bounced out of the back of the end zone. Frötscher once again jogging it to the front end zone line. Man down, sticking with a kind of poachy. Oh no, it is a zone, not a poachy man. Frötscher has been dumped back to, doesn't have a swing. Looking down the IO channel, but manages to sneak it up the sideline to Podolski.
Yeah, the defender on this wing was just caught peeking in the backfield a little bit. Really nicely tracked catch there by Frötscher. Yeah,
those swings across the pitch just are so dangerous, and that's well received by Kukul, who gets it off to Podolski, back to Frötscher, who looks deep. It's going to be a little bit of contention for it, but well taken under quite a lot of contact by Flans.
I mean, that was spicy, wasn't it?
It certainly was.
Lacrosse trying desperately to crawl it away, but full credit to Flans, who did very well to bring it down under tight pressure and tight coverage from man down.
And hopefully this will be a little bit of a shot in the arm for Gaul, meaning they can, galvanise themselves, or galvanise themselves.
I think you did what I did, like you said it in themselves. Oh, there's a pun there. Yeah, and the game might be out of reach for them, but if you can string some float, get some turns, string some flow together, it's a nice confidence booster going into your games this afternoon and in the rest of the tournament.
So we'll see the D coming out, not a Frötscher flick pull this time, but it's a floater that's going to land in bounds.
Wow, what a pull, because I thought the wind was going to push that out for a brick. But
so did I. So man down in their inside their own end zone, just managing to sneak it out now. Lots of quick movement, deep cut goes. It's still going. Oh, fake to come back under. And there it is. Excellently taken. Just a very big stride bringing him across the tape there. And that is Reardon for man down with the score.
Brilliant offense, because they looked flustered at times at the start of the point, and then they kind of got into their rhythm. Reardon was just shuttling back and forth, continually keeping that deep defender occupied and tiring him out, and in the end just lovely flow down the open side, lead passes to run onto. And it's so nice when you get that lead pass looking forward, because you're catching it and already you're seeing where the cuts have developed. You've got it, you can get it out of the hands quickly, you're keeping that average time of possession low, and man down score to make it 12-4, and the cap is on, but doesn't matter anyway because it will be game to 13.
I think Reardon really wanted that deep cut. He'd already been brought under once. He wasn't gonna do so again.
Make me do less work. It's a selfless task really, because it can be, pretty thankless just trying to tire someone out and letting other people move the disc. So it's nice when you get the reward with the score at the end.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, there's something slightly disappointing about making really good deep cuts and then the handlers just kind of weave it into the end zone on their own.
Yeah, even if you've done a good job by occupying defenders, moving them about, whatever, it's like, oh dear, just didn't even get a sniff.
So the disc sailing out of bounds again. I really think they are just trying to tire Frötscher out, who is one of the main handlers for this Gaul team, as he stumps across the sand to retrieve the pink Eurodisc.
I mean, I see exactly what they're going for, but I don't think it is necessarily to tire him out. But I think if they're going for that blading backhand, you should probably put it right from the far side of that end zone, because it gives it the best chance of landing in bounds. But it's like with those flick balls we've seen from Gaul, is that they can come in at quite an acute angle. They come in very fast, and they are a nightmare to catch. And so it's either catch it and risk the drop ball, or just let it bounce and then potentially get the defense a chance to set on the awkward bounce.
Especially if it's deep in the end zone, it's very dangerous. But some nice handler movement here. Oh, and some very lovely flow from Gaul, knocking on their end zone door. Slightly congested, lots of people filtering through. Dumps back. Looking slightly frantic, or maybe I'm just feeling a bit frantic. And losing quite a few yards with that, but they've reset the stall. Flants to Disler. Sorry, to Müller. And Müller shoots into the end zone, and despite a diving Lebonge, it is reeled in by, I believe that's Damley, with a big smile on his face. Lebonge throws a little bit of sand away from him in disgust at not being able to get that D.
There we go from Gaul, you know. Maybe it's too little too late, but it's the fact that they are, you know, they've found a little bit of rhythm now is good. And you mentioned that they lost quite a lot of field position on that big dump that floated, and it was a good adjustment from Flants, I think, to catch it. But on the beach where the pitches are smaller, you know, I don't think you should be afraid to go backwards, because maybe not so much in this wind, but generally, you know, you can hit those spaces with a bit more regularity than you can on a bigger field where there probably are spaces that you can't hit. But, you know, on the smaller congested fields of the beach, it feels like, you know, if you've got capable throwers, then any part of the field is always an option at any time. Yeah,
giving yourself space is absolutely crucial.
And especially because if you go backwards, sometimes then all of a sudden you've got the deep shot available again.
True. We've got Iwasco faking. Oh, well taken by Fletcher. Nice upfield shot to Schaff. Oh, puts up a floaty one, and it's not going to be able to be reeled in by anyone on either team.
Yeah, Reardon, I think, lost sight of it for a brief second, but even if he had seen it, it would have been a very difficult catch to make.
Nice shot to Damley. Oh, so it was Nicola who caught the previous goal. Sorry, yes. Fritz. Oh, incredible diving catch by the number 24, Disler. Up the line cut is just too far. I think he was trying to put it out in front as he was being quite well defended, but downwind, it's always going to be slightly too far out in front than you mean. Man down on the end zone line. Going to ground. Fakes to bring him under. Goes up to get it. There's a deep cut going. Fakes to bring under. Iwasco coming back for the dump, but not needed. Working it up the pitch, not as fast as we've seen them do in previous points, but still some excellent flow. And there's going to be a call.
I think maybe now you can tell that there's a little bit more fatigue in the legs, and then rather than rush something and potentially go on for longer, let's just take the time. It's the last point. We'll walk it in, metaphorically, not literally. Obviously, I'll be in trouble. and then you know, and then we can get a well under rest.
Yeah, so I think just telling the rest of the team what the stall count is. I believe it is 4. Oh, immediately dumps back and caught on the second attempt by Stewart. Dumping backwards. Looking very calm. They're not trying to force anything, not trying to rush anything, just waiting for the opportunities to present themselves. Nice open shot to Iwasco. Oh, and a nice round swing, but it's going to be too low to the ground for Stewart. So Fritz picking up. He's got a nice inside shot to Damley. Damley going deep, and Fritz is putting on a boost, but gets it under. Oh, doesn't get it under, actually. So man down, picking up immediately, looking to get it going. Oh, nice D attempt, but man down still in possession. Oh, nice round shot. There's a... Oh.
I'm not sure what happened there, because I didn't see who he was throwing to. Maybe he was trying to wind up for a deep hit, or maybe he was just faking, and the disc got free.
The disc got free, yeah, free from his clutches. And I think there's a little bit of, or rather quite a lot of fatigue probably for both these teams.
Just feels like it's the end of the game, doesn't it?
Yeah, wanting to get it over with, putting these deep shots which aren't necessarily as accurate as the throwers would have liked. But that's a nice shot from Iwasco. It's floating, but reeled in by Reardon. So on the downwind sideline, Iwasco. Lovely inside shot across the pitch, and immediate break side continuation. He's gotten up the line, but would have to break the force to do it. Goes to ground to receive it, knocking on the end zone door, and potentially a travel or a violation call.
I think he's suggesting perhaps the disc was down.
Oh, okay.
See it again on the replay. My instinct is that it was up, but evidently the player stopped because he thought it was down, and he's right there. So
yeah, I think I did hear him say down. So we can have a look on the replay here. We've got a teammate on the Gaul side saying it was up. He's not yet been asked for his opinion, but he has one.
We're seeing it now on the replay. It's a little bit lower than obviously the throw would have liked.
I think it's been contested and is going back to Schaff. Obviously the player nearest the play should have the best perspective.
Now disc checked in.
So we've got Fletcher on the disc, lovely round, just centimetres away, and just a little dish off to Kevin Reardon, and that is the score and the game. 2-man down.
Man down played really well throughout the game. Gaul, they kept at it, and it was just all too inconsistent for them. It came in fits and starts, and yeah, generally man down, I think, good value for that lead. On that last point, I was just thinking that Miglioretto's throws, they've got such touch on them. They look like as a receiver, they'd be really nice to catch. I was very impressed. And then had the down call contested, sent back, and it didn't phase the fact that they thought they had the game wrapped up. Okay, we've done it once, we can just get out there and do it again. And in the end, Reardon makes the catch for the goal, and man down advanced to 2-1 on the tournament. But for Gaul, another loss puts them at 0-3.
I will say, Gaul had some absolutely stunning plays and some moments of really, really nice flows. But as you said, there was just a little bit of inconsistency, not able to sustain that kind of high level that we saw in those sort of flashes of brilliance. So whether that's something we'll see kind of develop across the tournament, or perhaps in future tournaments for them, I feel bad. I feel like that's something you say about a beginners team, but then again, these guys are obviously not beginners. We will see you at 3:30 for the Young Legends versus Borderline. That's one you do not want to miss.
We are a group of ultimate players, coaches and video enthusiasts. We've worked with the major federations and the greatest events.
We're on a mission to make Ultimate huge. We want our videos and live streams to be free to watch.
We want to make stories that not only reach you,
but also reach people outside the Ultimate community.
Like and subscribe, Ultimate TV, the best in the world.
Become a member and
fund
our
work to cover more events in the future and to bring more stories and live coverage to the eyes of the Ultimate world and beyond.